Very good morning, everyone. Charles here of FRGNT Daily Chart Analysis pre-London Open, Tuesday 11th November 2025. Just approaching 7:30 in Milan, or as I say, pre-London Open. Just taking a look at the charts, GBPUSD today. So again, we start as always from that weekly time frame to see where we are now with price previously closing below that weekly 50 MA. I am expecting a continued rejection from that weekly 50 MA. As we say, that weekly 50 MA, we superimpose that across all the time frames and we take a look to see how that lines up and fares across the lower time frames to see if we can start building up some confluence to call it a point of interest to look for a trade potentially from that area. Also at the lows, we got that previous weekly lows. That's where I'll be looking for my highest probable long position. However, in terms of the here and now, price hovering in around that weekly 50 MA. And as you've seen already from Monday to now, we are rejecting that weekly 50 MA. So nevertheless, we go down through the time frames and let's see what we have. So we can isolate that previous daily high. Potentially we can look for price to tap into that previous daily high. Tap in again to that weekly 50 MA for rejection and rollover. However, with that said, to the bottom left hand chart now, what we can identify is that price, again, just like AUD/USD, is respecting that 4-hour 50 EMA. So we're going to play this two ways with the range that we have, roughly 170 pips down to the lows, of which we'd be looking for a higher probable long position. However, to that 4-hour 50 EMA, if price does not break and close below it, what do we have in terms of range? Let's have a look. Roughly 50 pips, that's more than enough for a solid return there if price does not break below that 4-hour 50 EMA. However, to create a good plan, what I'd like to see is a 4-hour candle close below that 4-hour 50 EMA, providing us with wicks to the highs. Once that's done, however, I would then expect price to pull back in and around an area of imbalance, which we have identified on that 15-minute time frame, in and around those previous daily highs, in and around Asia previously that is still yet to be filled. So that is, of course, acting in line as a confluence for price to pull back up to those areas before that rollover lower time frame break of structure before a turnaround short. So that's my intention so far on the GBPUSD in terms of the 1-hour time frame. There's no areas to isolate to call that to add to the confluence in terms of a 1-hour order block. However, nevertheless, we do have a high probable area in line with looking for that lower time frame break of structure. As I say in summary, we've got that weekly 50 MA in and around those previous daily highs. An ideal scenario would be for price to break and close below on the 4-hour time frame, below that 4-hour 50 EMA, pull back into an area of imbalance before that lower time frame shift, break of structure, before then going short. If that does not occur, and if we do not get that break below that 4-hour 50 EMA, we'll play it exactly the same as we did on AUD/USD yesterday in terms of looking for a shift up at those highs, being very patient, consistent and disciplined in waiting for potential 5-minute shifts, 5-minute breaks of structures, and then we'll refine that and look for a 1-minute break of structure before then looking to go short. However, with that said, we do know that our highest probable trade will come from once we get that security in terms of the 4-hour candle closing below that 4-hour 50 EMA, pull back into an area of imbalance before going short. So that's GBPUSD today, 11th of November 2025. As we say, we forecast price to come down into that previous weekly low. So once we do get that close below 4-hour 50 MA, we can expect a rollover again around about 170 pips. So we know we do not need to be the first in that position once that 4-hour candle closes below the 4-hour 50 MA. Just ensure that we do get our execution and entry absolutely spot on and as accurate as possible. Thank you very much for listening. That's Charles, GBPUSD, FRGNT Daily Chart Analysis. Take care.